Hi, everyone. Good Friday afternoon, and welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for this a little rainy start to the weekend. As we usually do, kick it off with former state representative, former Deputy Secretary of State, now heads up Stages of Freedom, Ray Rickman, to give his big view.
When I was 18 years old, long time ago, time passes, I touched Robert Kennedy's fingertips, maybe 2 or 3 fingers, I'm not sure. They let school out, Wayne State University. Robert Kennedy was in the back of a truck, fabulous old truck, and they were going down this road, and he was campaigning, and about 4,000 or 5,000 students, me in the lead, we followed him, chased him, and it was unbelievable what touched his fingers. Now, can you believe a politician that people are excited about, have feeling for, believe he's going to change the world because he's interested in reducing, eliminating poverty. He's interested in fighting racism. He goes to Mississippi and walks in the mud. What a time, the 60s, both bad and good. Vietnam, 55,000 Americans killed for nothing, and we knew at the time. Of course, half the population's in favor of the war because they're in favor of all wars. And of course, now 99% know it was stupid. These politicians, what they cannot do. Lyndon Johnson, very bad man, very good man. Great civil rights advocate. Great. Creates the war on poverty. A lot of the war on poverty is a pushback against Robert Kennedy being the great advocate. So Lyndon Johnson's going to outdo him. It's really an interesting era. Now we have in the White House Donald Trump bad-mouthing an American hero, John McCain. In each decoration there's somebody. There's Eisenhower for World War II. I mean, we can name them. Sometimes it's space cadets and space astronauts and the like who are our heroes. But John McCain, Republican, I'm not too thrilled about his politics, but I always appreciated and liked the man and thought he was indeed a war hero. Young in Vietnam and what he didn't suffer. Back to the 60s. And then this man, Donald Trump, who spends his energy, money, capital, lawyers, fixing it, telling lies so he doesn't have to go to Vietnam, has the audacity to sink this low and to denounce John McCain, not once, not twice, but so far 11 times. A U.S. Senator, Republican, off the record, of course, said that Donald Trump is a sick puppy. Sick. Let me end on a high note. No, first I have to tell you before my high note. The librarian at Brown told me today she finds it unbelievable. Her brother, the Republican, who's always been anti-communist, who's always been pro-FBI, who's always been pro-everything on the right, is now weak on all those things because Trump tells him to be. So for 50 years, he's one way. In the last 24 months, he's another. She finds it unbelievable. So I ask her to ask him if Trump should be ashamed of himself for denouncing John McCain. I'll report to you soon. But let me end on a very high note. The 94-year-old former president of the United States of America, honorable man, never a hint of anything but honor with his time in the White House and afterwards. Jimmy Carter today becomes the oldest living former president. By one day, President Bush Sr., he had the record and lost it yesterday. In death, he lost it. But during life, he had it. And now Jimmy Carter, alive and well enough, honors us by becoming legendary figure, Jimmy Carter.
have to fear is fear itself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Go Local Live. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for kicking off the start to your weekend here on Friday afternoon in downtown Providence. We'd like to welcome my next guest on, Go Local columnist Robert Whitcomb.
Hello, Kate. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today. I want to riff off of what former State Representative Ray Rickman was just talking about the presidency starting off being so excited to have met Bobby Kennedy, dovetailing into what we're seeing currently with President Donald Trump continuously taking former Senator and war hero John McCain to task posthumously. What do you make of this?
Well, it's a very bad taste, I think. If we're taking apart Hitler after Hitler's death or something like that. And, you know, John McCain had plenty of flaws. There's no doubt about it. He loved wars, foreign wars, but he was an honorable man. I think condemning somebody like him sets a terrible model for the young people of the country. The biggest problem I have with Trump is characterological, as you know. He sets a terrible model about how to act and how to have a civil and civic society. And I think that's what's most troubling about that. And certainly, you know, in demeaning McCain's obviously his patriotism, his bravery, it's pretty repulsive. But, you know, Trump does about 97 repulsive things a day, and I think we're becoming numb.
So there is some speculation. Of course, we're waiting to hear. It should be imminent. The findings from Robert Mueller's special investigation. Some speculation that this McCain chatter could be just distraction politics.
No, I don't think so. I think Trump actually does hate Mr. McCain because Mr. McCain humiliates him by being paid, you know, by McCain's history of being a patriot, physically brave, and so on. I think it's really a matter of you know, personal animus. I don't think it's a smokescreen for the Mueller report. Okay. And we don't know what's going to be in the Mueller report. The rumor is there'll be a lot of stuff in it. The Republican Attorney General will probably try to suppress some of it. It probably won't get Trump impeached. And if the Democrats are smart, barring really glaring examples of impeachable offenses, which I think already exist, but everyone will ignore. I think that the president won't be impeached, and the big thing will happen next year. Trump could get reelected depending on the economy, even though I will slide in the yield curve inverted today for the first time since 2007, which is one of the strongest indicators of a recession about 6 months down the line. But who knows? I hope that doesn't happen because I live on the stock market, as you know.
So let's talk about a topic that I don't believe have had the opportunity to discuss yet, and this, of course, is...
What's up with our psychoanalyst?
The protracted college admission scandal.
Isn't it wonderful? It's the best scandal in a long time. It's got celebrities, it's got snobs, it's all wallowing in money, and it just shows you the squalid state of American culture.
Well, stemming from, you just mentioned you're not sure what's going to come, if anything, from the Mueller investigation. Yeah. Apart from these people who were involved with this Singer character, if you will, does this change anything besides making people afraid maybe of bribes?
No, because the colleges have become big businesses, and the more money that the colleges and universities, including the very rich ones, such as, they want to keep the money flowing in. I remember about 20 years ago, I was approached by a certain well-known university about becoming their propaganda minister. And I was astonished even then at how high the salaries were. They were like a private business.
I'm assuming that as akin to chief communications officer.
Yeah, right, probably, Minister of Truth or misinformation.
Minister of Propaganda.
And I was just astonished in that process of sitting down and being interviewed and being given information about the finances of the institutions, what the salaries were for the vice presidents and the provosts. These places are businesses now, and they want the more money that comes in, the higher their wages. A lot of it's just that. You have to look at these things as businesses. The people run them like businesses. The old time, a calling. James Conant, famous president of Harvard College. He's a great example. Straight back, rectitude, austere. And he saw his mission as famously improving American education. You know, he wouldn't do well now. That's not the mission. The mission is to constantly grow your institution.
Well, I think from this scandal, I think the thing that folks are keeping an eye on, especially from the celebrity standpoint, do these people see any jail time?
No, I doubt it. Maybe there'll be some fines or something. Jail time, I mean, to throw all these celebrity people into Lewisburg and everything would be very, where I think was Buddy there, or was he in Danbury? Anyway, it would be very entertaining, but I don't see jail time for this. I mean, how do you prove massive public damage? The trouble is, variants of this have happened for a long time. Look at the middle or upper middle class people who've had the money to pay for their kids to take the Princeton Review prep, for example. In my time, we took the SATs. The guy in charge of college admissions would say, the SATs are, 2 weeks from Saturday, get plenty of sleep the night before, and take 3 No. 2 pencils. That was it.
That's it. That was the prep.
Yeah.
Well, we had an interesting conversation with Daryl West, formerly of
very good. He writes well and is good on television.
Of the Taubman Center here at Brown, obviously now down at Brookings, relayed his time at Brown having to be called into interviews with VIP students, talk with them, talk about them.
Take XYZ celebrity out to dinner.
Take them out, write letters back to admissions.
And
he said this is not what the average applicant gets. So, I mean, that will perpetuate. I mean, that's not going anywhere.
That's right. It's not going to go anywhere.
legal.
The bronze plaque thing, okay, I will promise if you let my little boy or girl in, I will promise either immediately or down the line to build a wing to something. And if you don't mind, please put my name in a bronze plaque in honor of my wealth.
So speaking of who might go to jail or who might not, and likely not, with a
Probably you and me may be heading in that direction.
with a misdemeanor looming, Bob Kraft, the head of the owner of the New England Patriots.
I don't know why he's doing that. Why he's stretching this thing out. Usually in cases like this, you want to sort of move on.
So now we're in that interesting quandary of the video. Like, will the video get released? So
I'm putting it on my blog, by the way, if you'd like to.
The video?
But you have to wear the special 3D glasses.
I really do not want to see this video if it comes out. So he's saying he's not guilty. If he's not guilty, then why not let a video be released?
That's right. I guess because he's guilty. That's one possibility.
So I think that might be the last, of what we see from a legal vantage point here moving forward. But of course,
I just don't know why he's stretching it out, though.
Ed Markey gave his donations to a women's trafficking fund, because that's also at the crux of this as well. I mean, that was what this investigation was. Not just
trafficking.
It's the trafficking.
Right. International trafficking.
It's not the prostitution. It's the trafficking.
Right. Absolutely. And these are generally young women, many of them from Asia, who apparently are particularly sought after in that industry. And one of the people that runs one of these strips is a pal of President Trump's. So,
I don't think the story is going anywhere
anytime
soon.
Absolutely not.
A couple more stories that GoLocal wrote about this week I want to talk about. The state of recycling in Rhode Island, the low participation rate, especially here in the city of Providence, 7%. And then from Rhode Island Resource Recovery, burgeoning expenses and then declining revenues. Is it a point to really rethink recycling as a whole?
We have to recycle. Also, there's an international problem. The Chinese used to
don't want it.
They don't want it anymore. They're now a developed nation. They don't want any of this stuff anymore. And this is so important to get a hold of, especially the plastic, which is killing all this wildlife, these tragic scenes, especially along the coast. Hey, we're on the coast, too. It ends up in the water, and then the fish eat it, and the whales eat it, and the seals eat it. So it's too bad. But the problem that's happening here, it's happening around the country and around the world.
We're not alone. No,
we don't really have a handle on the recycling problem. I think probably more with plastic than with metal. I think that's the central
We'll see moving forward. And then the big story today on GoLocal. The last couple of years, the historic mansion at 150 Lloyd had the big Suboxone Clinic sign outside, right in the cusp of Thayer Street. So
right in the middle, almost in the old Pembroke campus.
Right, yes. So very dense residential, but bordering on commercial. Neighbors were up in arms that a Suboxone Clinic could potentially go there. Now GoLocal has reported the illustrious landlord who's got
Fall
multiple
River.
illustrious
Right.
Fall River landlord who has multiple properties throughout the East Side. Walter Bronhard is in fact associated with the new LLC that just
Yeah.
purchased the property. Now, when we had done a story on Mr. Bronhard a couple years ago, College Hill Neighborhood Association, Providence Preservation Society, all had issues with the upkeep of the properties, how they
hated
fit.
him. He said he was sort of a kind of a slumlord.
So now some neighbors didn't want Suboxone. Now they have what looks like Walter Bronhard.
Yeah, he's everywhere, isn't he? Yeah. I wonder, could he buy our house? We're ready. Would he take our dog, too?
Call Bob.
yeah.
Read that story again, more Providence intrigue. What are we going to learn from you this weekend?
Oh, boy. I look at Deloitte. You know, the problem with Deloitte, it's so complicated. These computers, that we're trapped. We're trapped with Deloitte. You know, the people doing the public benefits. And by the way, they were screwing up in some other, it wasn't just Rhode Island.
Oh, they were
big
messing
time,
up everywhere,
big time. So what's the problem there? I give a tip of the hat to the governor of Connecticut for keeping a nuclear plant open. We need that energy. I look at Thayer Street after a GoLocal piece, wonderful GoLocal story about how it's changed, and you know it's sad in a way. The blue-haired lady gift shops are gone, and you know, but it's good too. It's more dynamic in many ways.
Have you been to Shake Shack yet?
No, I don't plan to go either. And I should. Getting back to the college thing just briefly, I mentioned U.S. News will Report rankings. Terrible. This rush for the highest ranking possible when you're intrinsically comparing apples and oranges, very corrupting. Okay. That's the core of some
Anti-ranking.
of this problem. Anti-ranking of any kind, unless I like it, unless I like where my rank is.
Did you see that we're the fattest city in New England?
Yeah, it's depressing. It's depressing.
And what else?
And okay, we got health care. A bunch of realistic Democrats have come up with a system that allows continuation of private insurance, heavily regulated, but private health insurance. I think that's the way to go, not Medicare for all, a la Bernie, which would not work.
So did you see earlier this week we were able to attend and stream the discussion between Tom Perez and Michael Steele at Brown?
Yeah, very
The
interesting.
takeaway from Michael Steele says, with healthcare, he said, what we're going to see is President Trump defending Obamacare.
That's right. Great ironies of history. That's right.
You can see that on
Free
GoLocal.
syringes for everybody. Can I slide in one other?
One more.
There's been a bunch of people, mostly Democrats, but some Republicans too, want to start enforcing the antitrust laws for the first time in decades. I think that's great because especially these huge monopolies in tech and airlines and so on, tremendous pricing power. It reduces innovation. It suppresses, and it also suppresses wages. When you have just a few extremely large company in each sector, the ability to get a higher wage, your ability to get a higher wage if you're working in that sector is much diminished. So bring back Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay, let's have some trust busting. Let's trust
absolutely.
bust. Well, if you want to read more, be sure to check out GoLocal Prov on Sunday for Robert Whitcomb's weekly column. And we'll catch you back on Monday here in the downtown Providence studio for GoLocal Live. GoLocal CEO Josh Fenton will be back with Business Monday. But of course, in the meantime, find us on Facebook and of course, read Bob Whitcomb on Sunday. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.